What's up, everybody? Today we're talking about rules and etiquette in cornhole. Woo! Little bit of a lull in the season. Not much to talk about from a tournament perspective. So we're going to cover rules and etiquette. And I think this is one of those videos that you can watch at any point during the season because we're just going to break down like what all the rules of cornhole are and then what the differences are between leagues, because there are a lot of differences between leagues, and I was surprised to learn like how many differences there are.
Yep. There is quite a few differences. Everyone has their own take of what cornhole kind of is and what the rules should be. So, yeah, we're gonna go cover all of those today.
Yeah, and so I started trying to figure this out, right? Because as we were thinking about topics for the show, the idea of rules and etiquette popped up, and so I started like learning the rules because there's a lot of questions I had that I didn't know the answer to. And as I was kind of looking at all of the different rule books between the ACL, the ACO, and the TCL, like what are their rules? What are the differences? I ended up creating a document. Okay.
Yeah.
And I put it in quote unquote deck form.
Yeah.
And I brought it here today. So, yep, we're rocking a big deck.
Yeah, we are.
And it's the rules and etiquette of cornhole. Here we go, folks. I hope you enjoy. Buckle in. This should be exciting. Let's see if it works this time. It does.
Let's go.
All right. So one of the things that these guys being the three different leagues that I mentioned earlier, actually agree on is the layout of the court and, for the most part, the boards. Okay. So all boards are 27 feet from front to front. Your pitching box is the same size, 3 feet wide, 4 feet long. The hole is 6 inches wide. It's the center of the hole is 9 inches from the back. The back of the board is 12 inches high. They do differ, though, on the front of the board. So it's small, but the ACL says 2.5 to 3.5 inches. TCL says 3 to 3.5 inches. ACO says 2 to 4 inches, right? And I think like the 2-inch version all the way to 12 be a steeper board. So maybe that makes a little bit of a difference. But the big question, Grant, is how many times have you seen somebody bust out a ruler and actually measure this stuff?
Not ever.
What about like the 27 feet between boards? You just assume that it's right when you go to a tournament, right?
Yeah, I just assume it's right. I mean, I know there's some people that will kind of, unless it just feels like, hey, this is 2 feet off. Like,
Yeah.
Sometimes you can just feel it.
Have you ever I've seen that happen live where a player said, no, these can't be right. And he was right.
Yeah.
Has that happened to you?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. 27 feet.
27 feet.
For everybody who wondered.
How does everyone come to a different answer on the front of the board stuff?
Oh, it's just because they're all business majors. They're just picking numbers out of thin air. They don't really study this stuff.
ACO's rule feels more like a man. We just don't want to deal with the problem, so let them all through.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, 2 to 4. They're thinking 3 is ideal, but you put a little bumper on it or a little stopper.
Yeah, I mean, it's just nitpicking, right?
It's nitpicking. Yeah, the other rules, of course, that they all agree on is like you play to 21. There is no bust rule, right? You don't have to get 21 exactly, which I don't know who came up with that rule one day. That must have been like
That's
a guy.
Just a backyard rule.
That's a guy who got beat.
Oh yeah.
He was like, no, you have to get it exactly on the number.
I can't tell you. Before I started playing competitively, that won me a lot of cornhole games.
You used to do that? The bust rule? Bruh.
We all start somewhere.
And what about the 11 to 0? You win if you get to 11 first.
I mean, I believe in a skunk rule too.
The skunk rule. The bust rule and the skunk rule. So yeah, backyard rules. You never see them in tournaments though.
No.
You're playing at 21.
We're playing at 21.
Everybody agrees it's 3 if it goes in the hole. It's 1 on the board. Stuff like that. All the stuff that they all agree on. All right. So we talked about measurements, right? The bags are different. Or at least the rules of the bags are different.
And I think most of us are aware of this, right? At least bag maker wise.
Don't you think? I would think everybody thinks they're the same. My assumption was that all these leagues had the same rules for bags. They don't.
No.
They don't.
And they might have started off being the same at some point, but both of them probably ran across problems and addressed them differently.
Yeah, and the general rule is it's 6 inches by 6 inches. It's a square and it weighs a pound, right? And then where they all went different is how thick is it, and what are the tolerances for these measurements, right?
Right.
Well, okay, they all do agree on the length and width. 6 inches with a 1/4 inch variance, right? They all agree on that. Everything else is different though. The ACL allows bag makers to make bags that go all the way down to 15.5 ounces and all the way up to 16.5 ounces. That's 1 full ounce. An ounce, an OZ. That's a lot. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
And that's a big it's a big difference. So, but they have that new thing where you can get like a light or a heavy or a regular, right? So they've given bag makers quite a bit of leeway there, because the other two ones are like the ACO is 15.75 to 16.25. They don't give you very much wiggle room. And then TCO recently went down to 15.5, but only went up to 16.25. So there are some differences there. Corners, those rules are weird. The new ACL rule is it has to measure 7.5 inches from corner to corner, like across the widest part of the bag. That's the minimum measurement. ACO goes maximum 8.25, which I kind of don't get, because that means you want like a smaller corner, but that's difficult. TCL is ambiguous. You go to their rule book and it's like, this is what it should be, but ultimately we're just going to say what's good and what's not good. And that makes sense because they sell all of their bags through their store, so they could check them as they come in, right?
Right.
But they don't have like a clear cut, definite corner rule. The corner rule is if we say it's okay, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a hard thing to get right, right?
Yeah, well, I don't think so. I think that the 7.5 inches from the longest point to longest point is an easier thing to measure, easy-ish to measure, and it's doable. I think where leagues went wrong in the last several years, they had an actual radius put into their rule book, and it's so difficult to measure. Measuring radiuses is not easy to do. At one point, ACL had like a colored thing that you put your bag on top
Oh yeah,
of, and if
yeah,
you could see the color, then your bag was illegal,
yeah,
right? Um, but yeah, this is how they're dealing with it now. But there's clearly no clearly defined rule, right? The leagues have not agreed. It's kind of a weird thing. Um, Thickness is interesting. So the only time that I've seen bad corners. I've seen corners that are super round. The bag almost look like a disc. But thinness used to really get on my nerves because a lot of bags would come out thin. I'd be playing with them. I'd be able to see them from far away. They look like pancakes. I'm like, those are too thin. Well, the ACL lets people go down to 1.1 inches now, which is actually pretty thin compared to other bags. And then you can go all the way up to 1.5 inches. And that's a pretty easy rule to follow. But no, 1.1 inches and 16.5 ounces is an interesting bag. Like, this is a very thin, heavy, dense bag, which I kind of want to make just to see what it plays like, because that's pretty interesting. Especially because I don't have a maximum corner to corner. I have a maximum width, but I don't have a maximum corner to corner. So I found that to be interesting. Also, both ACO and TCL for the thickness go out to 1,000th of an inch. And I
yeah.
mentioned business majors earlier. Like, you guys, nobody could actually measure this. Like, there's absolutely no way people are going to be able to measure to 1,000th of an inch um, on the thickness of a cornhole bag. All right, I could talk about this forever. This is probably not the most interesting stuff that we have to talk about. But I have a question for you, Grant. As a championship cornhole player, have you ever seen a bag measured in a tournament?
Yes.
Where?
They and it's funny, it was ACL. It was at Worlds, not this past year, but the season before. I think it was Devin Harbaugh and somebody else called out Mark Richards and somebody else about their bags.
All right.
And they put it on some sort of measurement deal. Taylor Stone was there for this, and it was like proven that the bag was illegal. They still let them play with the bags.
I remember. So we didn't talk about this before the show. I didn't know how you were going to answer this question. I thought you were going to say no because people just don't measure bags.
This was the beginning of the whole bag problem, because it's like, man, we could put 60% of the bags in the building on that deal. It's not going to pass because people haven't been checking it.
That's right.
People don't check. I mean, and bag manufacturers have just done whatever they want, and to a degree, they should be able to. But to a degree, there has to be hey, this is the limit. This is the limit. You can do whatever you want to in between, but there has to be a line. And then you have all the opinions of bag manufacturers kind of going in there. At the end of the day, the guys deciding on the rules for all these leagues are not bag makers, so they don't know what's possible, not possible. They're just listening to bag makers and trying to figure out what a good rule is, and that's the reason you have so many different deals on here, right?
Yeah.
So it's such a nitpicky deal, because to a degree there has to be something to prevent people from. I'm not going to say the pro who did it, but there was a pro that had cat bags or something, and opened it up, put his
Which,
game changer fill in
yeah.
there, and closed it back up and started playing with those. And he would take fill out of them, like
Yeah.
could make them as thin as possible. There has to be ways to prevent against things like that. But how do you know if the bag manufacturer did that or the player did that?
Yeah. good point. And I guess you could investigate carefully. Like if you gave me a set of bags, I could take out my big magnifying glass and tell you if that top seam was popped open and reclosed. And so I could figure that
But
out.
I can say somebody from my local league sold me these.
Yeah,
Like, there's no. It's just such an impossible task to cover.
it is. And the other point, from my perspective at least, is when you give a bag maker these tolerances and say you can go down to 15.75 inches, well, guess what? I'm going to be trying to hit 15.75
Right.
inches. And now my tolerance is going to be, because when you manufacture anything, you're going to have a tolerance. It's not always going to be perfect, like exactly where you want it to be.
Right.
And yeah, if I'm shooting for 15.75, guess what? Sometimes it might be 15.74. That's an illegal bag, right?
Yeah.
But the funny thing is we can't measure that.
I know you can't measure that. And again, this is where as a league, you got to hold the bag manufacturers accountable. If you want to play with that line and you want to get right there on that line, well, if you go underneath it, no.
Well, so that's what's kind of interesting. So the next slide is what if they're illegal? Okay. And I tried to find, but here's the point. It falls on the shoulders of the players, right? Across all leagues. It doesn't say like this bag manufacturer is going to be banned from the league.
No.
What it says is this guy is going to be suspended.
Well,
He's going to lose his prize
this is
money.
in the players' rule book, right? We don't know what contract all the bag manufacturers are signing.
That's a very good fact. That is true. I don't know if there are penalties for making illegal bags.
Yeah, and we wouldn't just be able to access that unless we contacted each league.
Yeah, and I've been a TCL maker and an ACO maker, and I can't, in my mind at least, I can't remember penalties for making illegal bags. It all falls on the shoulders of the players.
Right.
Maybe an ACL. I think I have heard rumors of like, a company paying a fine for making bags that were too thin, but I don't know for sure. That's just a hearsay or rumor.
Yeah.
But okay, if you get here's what you need to know as a player, okay? If you think a dude has illegal bags, you have to call him out before the match starts.
If you're
Full
hoping,
stop.
and this is specifically to change the result of your match,
Yeah.
it has to be called out before.
No ex post facto.
They're not going to go into their next game. You say, oh, they have illegal bags after you lost, and it's going to change the result of your game. That's not how that works.
It's not going to change the result of your game, but you can get them in trouble.
But you can get them to forfeit all their winnings.
That's right. You could go narc on them, have them tested, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, just what players need to know is if you think you played against a set of illegal bags, you got to call it out before the match starts. The other piece of practical advice that I would give you, before you call out somebody else's bags, you better make sure that your bags are legal.
Yeah.
Because you'll be surprised. There's a lot of bags that just don't measure up to the standards,
100%.
So all three of these leagues I've talked about threaten suspension for players using illegal bags.
Yes.
They say you can be suspended for the tournament and the whole season. It varies. All of them, though, will suspend you.
Yeah.
TCL specifically reserves the right to withhold winnings if a player is found to have played with illegal bags. ACL does the same thing, and ACL also specifically mentions that they can randomly check players' bags whenever they want. They just check them, right? TCL, it's after you win, right? ACL is different. At any point in time, they can come and check your bags, right? I don't remember reading that in the TCL rule. What they talk about is if you won a bunch of money and then we measure your bags and they're bad, you're not getting your money.
Right.
Right. ACL, you're not getting your money either, but it's just a little bit of a difference that your bags can be checked at any point in time in an ACL tournament, according to my interpretation of the rules. All right, so that's bags. Got anything else to say about bags?
No, I mean, one more thing, dude. There was a guy at a TCL state championship. He was throwing 3 red game changers that were TCL stamped, 1 that was not.
Did you call him out before the match started?
I didn't play him, but eventually he did get kind of caught for that. But, I mean, you'd be surprised, dude.
I didn't mention that in the slide, but all of the leagues agree that your bags have to match.
Yes.
And in that case, they didn't match, right? That's an illegal set of bags. But yeah, I didn't mention that. But they all have the same thing. And then not playing with the same color bags, right, as the other team, but we'll get to that at the coin toss. But that's another issue with bags. But yeah, okay, the foul line. This has been a hot topic when it comes to cornhole and different leagues and different interpretations of how you play the game. For high level here, both ACO and TCL do not allow players to cross over the foul line. Full stop. Right? You can't cross the line when you throw a cornhole bag. Now, do you want to? I mean, Obviously, that should be the rule, right? Like, do you want to talk about this? Like, I feel like this is a horse that's been beaten to death.
It is. It's just been talked about so much, and just don't cross the line. I mean, it's do whatever you want to, just don't cross the line. Where instead of trying to make up all these things about how you can cross the line and keep a foot planted and do yada yada yada, just make it where you can't cross the line. If they need the extra momentum, have them take a step back and step into the throw from there.
I've never understood why you would be allowed to be able to cross the line. I think the best analogy I've been given or heard, it was Trey Ryder saying, with 3 pointers, you can cross the line.
Yeah, but in three, when this is why you're talking to again someone that's probably not an athlete or played basketball. Hey, no, I'm just going. I mean, you can disagree with it. I hope he hears it. When you're talking about a 3-pointer. Someone's guarding you on a 3-pointer. You're moving around when you're playing basketball, but when you're shooting a free throw, no one's guarding you. So don't cross the line.
And you can't in a free throw.
And you can't in a free throw. Same sport, can't in a free throw because no one's guarding you. No one's guarding you in cornhole.
I'm glad you made this point because that's a really good point that I don't think I've heard that point before.
It's such a simple game, and we're making it so hard.
Well, they have cleaned up that rule, but first I want to talk about TCL and ACO and their difference because they have a difference. In TCL, you cannot cross the line full stop unless it's like a timeout, right?
Yes.
And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people
don't know. I mean, my girlfriend's dad is example number one. That guy will cross the line just to say something to you, and I'm like, get back there.
You can't. Shoot. Yeah. And another one. So some people think the rule is the ACO rule. Okay, so the ACO rule is you can cross the line after your bag stops moving. So you throw your bag stops moving, you can cross the line. Where that comes into play is guys will kind of be leaning forward and they'll get a little bit off balance and then they'll walk forward after their bag lands. And they think that, in TCL, they think that's okay, right?
No.
In ACO, that's okay. TCL, it is not okay.
Don't cross the line. If you cross the line, it's a timeout.
I will give a tip of the cap to TCL here. I think they've got the right rule. Like, if you can't cross the line, you can't cross the line.
And why debate.
Yeah. Why should you be able to cross the line like after you lose your balance? Also, the ACO rule, you're distracting the other player, right? Your bag stops moving. Now it's time for him to throw, and now you can cross over the line? Like, that's not okay. So I think TCL has this rule right, in my personal, humble opinion. Penalties, all right? So this is where it kind of, in my mind, gets even more interesting because in both leagues, you have to go get an official.
Yeah.
Yeah. And TCL specifically says that the game must be officiated. And what that means is you have to go get an official. Now, the TCL rulebook, I just gave a little tip of the cap. On the other hand, the rulebook's not very good, and it's hard to interpret some of these rules. And I did not see anywhere inside of their rulebook where a game can just be officiated. In other words, an official can decide to go officiate a game. Instead, the TCL rulebook seems to be specific that a player has to go get an official. So what that means is that you can cross the line as long as the other guy doesn't call you out.
Yeah, pretty much. And this is where I think etiquette comes in a little bit. Hey, if I say stop crossing the line, don't make me go get an official.
Oh, hey, that's a good one for etiquette.
Don't make me go get an official. If I say that and you know you're doing it, I'm not the asshole for telling you to stop breaking a rule.
Right.
I'm not the asshole.
Right.
So if you're going to get whatever you got going on at me for telling you not to break a rule, that says a lot more about you than it does me.
Right. Yeah, don't make me get an official. That's a great point for etiquette, right? So we have a slide on etiquette, but etiquette are like the unwritten rules, being polite.
Right? I mean, yeah, this is the human stuff involved, right?
Right. It's not necessarily written down, but it's things that, don't make me get an official. That's a great point. That's a good rule of etiquette. So another interesting thing for me is that, well, what's the penalty, right? So in TCL, I got to go get an official. Then an official comes and watches. And if you cross the line, you're penalized, right? Although I think you might be warned and then penalized. I forget exactly how it goes because in my mind, nobody's ever really going to go get an official. But they did change the rule recently so that the bag that you threw is forfeited, okay? Any bags of yours that your bag hit are forfeited, and any bags of the opponents that are hit go in the hole. Okay?
Boy, you better not cross that line.
Yeah, that's a big penalty. That's a lot of points, dude.
It is.
Like, we just talked,
he can lose the game.
Yes, that is a lot of points. So, I thought it was interesting. Your bags are forfeited. So the old rule is the board was put back as close as you can get it. Now, like if a bad bag, let's call it, hits other bags, you just try to recreate the board. No, no, no. Now you just take those off and they don't count for you and they +3 for the opponent. So I would call that kind of a heavy-handed penalty. But in hindsight, I had to go get a freaking official. They were watching you and you did it again. Like, come on.
Yeah.
All right, so an ACO, same thing. Game must be officiated. However, the ACO, it does specifically say in their rule book that a voluntary certified official can officiate the game. What that means is you don't have to go get an official. If you can if you want, but if an official decides like, hey, I don't like this guy and I'm sick of him crossing the line, he can just go officiate it and bust you. The penalty there was like a strike system that they have where at first it's a dead bag and the bags are replaced. The second time, dead bags and the bags are replaced again. If you do it a third time, forfeit. Game over, you lose. 3 strikes and you are out. All right, now we're talking ACL foul line.
I can't. I have some input on this just because the rule's so stupid.
I'm going to bore you guys to tears with this. I put together a deck. All right?
Most people have already clicked off.
Yeah. For those who are still watching this, right? Just, I am a former lawyer and
John's
engineer.
Excited to go over this.
I am.
And trust me, I'm right here with people. I'm just like,
come on.
All right, man.
I know.
Let's go. Come on.
But hey, we're going to have an episode that we can always refer to. Hey, you want to know about the rules of cornhole?
Yeah.
We're covering a lot of them.
Yeah.
All right. Can a player cross the foul line when throwing? This is slide 2 of 2. In ACL allows for people to cross the foul line. They let you do it.
They let you do it.
Now, they've changed the rule recently. All right, before you can literally the rule before was you almost needed slow motion cameras because you had to release the bag before the bag crossed the foul line. Okay? So you need slow motion cameras pointed perpendicular to the foul line so that you can.
But what's hilarious about that is that the people running the live feed aren't allowed to call out.
Officiate?
Officiate.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay. All right. Keep moving.
Well, that was the old rule. Okay. Now I think the rule's pretty good, honestly, because now you can. What I hated about the old rule is you couldn't ever really enforce it. The new rule is you just have to keep a foot in the box. That's pretty much it. You can keep a foot in the box. If you keep a foot in the box, you're good.
My foot or my shoe?
I think I'm going to say your foot.
How do you know?
Well, did I put the actual rule in here?
What's stopping me?
1 foot.
What's stopping me from just having some long ass toes?
Like clown shoes?
Yeah. And like keeping that foot in the box for reaching all the way out there. Like, what's stopping me?
We should make cornhole shoes that have like 6-inch extra sole on the back so you can get even closer.
It's just, okay.
And I think,
if you keep your pinky toe in the box, you're fine. Pretty sure it's how the rule reads.
Oh, and you can see it, dude. Guys are like toenail in the box. I mean, they're barely, especially sometimes when they step out. But a friend of the show, Ryan Trader, his motion crosses the line every single time. Frank Maudlin, every single time, right? And you asked earlier, why would you cross the line? Well, because you can. And it gives you an advantage. You're closer to the hole. You're able to add more momentum.
Giannis to come play, and he's going to be halfway across the court playing cornhole.
So if you get busted, their penalty is extremely hard to understand. There were 2 examples to explain the rule. And let me tell you, if you need 2 examples to explain the rule's not good, especially when you're dealing with cornhole players. Like, this rule's too hard. So I'm not going to go through it in detail, although I did write this down. A violating team only receives points for bags already in the hole. Opposing team gets 3 points for all bags not missed off the board. Okay. So if you miss a bag off the board in bag 1 and 2, you don't get any points for them. The rest of them, you get 3.
Okay.
Grant's falling asleep. Let's go to the next slide. The coin toss.
It's just so dumb.
Would you believe that the different leagues have different outcomes for a coin toss?
Actually, this is actually something I want to talk about because it's fun.
It's fun?
It should be fun.
All right. So you flip a coin. I think that it should be simple. You flip a coin, you win, you get it all. Full stop. You get to pick the bag.
I want options.
Yeah, well, you got them. So at ACL, you get lane choice. If in singles, lane choice, and you get to choose. So ACL is different. You get to choose who throws first. So if I wanted to, I could give you first bag because I won the toss. I don't automatically get first bag. All right. In ACO, you get lane, bag choice, and first pitch. TCO, lane, and bag choice or first pitch. So in singles, you win the coin toss. I choose my bags. That means you get first. Right? So one of
Wait, he said, wait.
TCL, singles, I won the toss. I get lane and bag choice or first pitch. That's what I've got written down. You think I got it wrong?
I'm pretty sure you can have bag choice and first pitch, but not choose the side you're on.
Well, what I've got written down, what I think the rule is that if you choose that I'm playing with my bags, and I choose the lane, that means you get first pitch. So that's how I interpret
I'm pretty sure it can also be the coin flip. You get bags and side, or you get bags and what lane you want.
All right. Well, comment below. Maybe we'll leave it in the comment. I'll leave the text.
I mean, that's how I've always played it.
Well, again, like I don't think there are what's in the rule book and there's what people do.
Right.
And that's how I interpreted the rule. Pretty sure I got it right, but I might have gotten it wrong. Would not be the first time I got something wrong. All right. In doubles, this is where it gets so confusing. All right. In ACL, you get choice of lane or matchup and choice of who throws first. ACO, bag choice for the whole match. It's clear on that. It says for the match. So it's a 2 out of 3. You get you get to choose your bags for the whole match. You get the first pitch, and then you get to pick lane or matchup. TCL, bag choice, choice of lane and first bag, or you choose matchup, and then the opponent gets the first bag. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, the doubles one, I mean, it is what it is. So 2 out of 3 for TCL is, I guess, really only in the open division.
Yeah.
So that's the only time a lot of this really matters, because second game you're going to be having the other team gets to choose. Where like in this ACL gets another coin flip
Yep.
to redecide,
Wait,
even though they don't really play 2 out of 3.
I want to emphasize that in ACL, you flip a coin before every match. It doesn't just switch because you lost the first coin toss. That's kind of interesting. Like you can win 2 in a row and get first bag both games. But as you were saying, they don't play very many 2 out of 3s. I think that would only come into play in the double dips.
Right. Which then it would be the same thing as TCL.
Yep. And then ACO, well,
because on a double dip for TCL, that if let's say I lose my 2 out of 3,
yeah,
the double dip game, we're flipping a coin again.
Well, yeah. If you lose 2 out of 3, then there's 3 games played the 2 out of 3. There's a possible of 3 coin tosses happening, right? In game 1, there's a coin toss. Game 2, it switches. Game 3, there's a coin toss. And you go to double dip, there's another coin toss.
Right.
Lots of tossing of the coins.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mentioned if you win the first one, you get all this stuff, and on the second one, the losing team gets to choose, right? But there's a distinction in the rule book about what are you choosing? Do you get to choose your bags and lane and matchup? I think the rule really only says lane and matchup, and that the person who won the coin toss gets to have bags for the whole match. That's how I interpret the rule. That's TCL's rule. ACO makes it clear. You win the coin toss, you get your bags for the whole match.
So the way, I mean, this has actually happened between me and BG recently about the whole like bag choice thing with TCL. The way I've always understood it, or at least the way I've always played it, is that game 1, me and BG are throwing the same colored commandments. This happened at SIG. We're throwing the same colored commandments. He wins the coin toss. I got to throw something different. Game 1 ends. Game 2, I'm going to get my commandments. I'm going to throw my commandments. You got to choose a different bag because this is my win of the coin toss. This is my game. And that's what we did. In game 3, flipped a coin again. He won. I had to switch bags again.
Yeah, if the rule book said choices, I would think you're right. But because it says choice, I think it is only referring to the last choice. But like I said, if that's the way it's been played, like that's the course of business, then that's what you would say. And, I've given TCL some credit, or they do some things really well, but that rule book is not the best.
I mean, yeah, the game, but every year it's something that you have to update every year, because every year There are just some people trying to do stuff their way that other people don't like.
Yeah.
For example, should I be able to hold a fifth bag when I'm throwing if I always want to have a bag in my left hand?
Oh, yes.
No, that's what a beer's for.
Yeah.
No, because how often do you look over and you just assume, oh, that person has a bag left?
That's a good point. That's why they shouldn't be able to have it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, but some just random person out there wants to be able to hold this bag in their other hand. It's like, it's just don't. Why does it matter? Hold a beer. Hold your phone.
I overthink things. I don't think I've ever done that. Like, that's something I would.
I mean, but people do it. And another thing with the coin toss, I want the TCL rule. I mean, ACL and ACO, do whatever you want. TCL, I want the TCL rule to be, if I win the coin toss and I choose matchup, I get to say who I want to play and which board I want to play on.
And they still get to choose.
They still choose lane and get first bag, but I get to say, hey, Levi Haddock, I know you step throw. We're going to throw against the wall.
Yeah.
Just to make you a little bit more uncomfortable. I should be, or it could be, hey, we got me in person that doesn't like you. You don't want to stand next to the speaker. We're going to go throw next to the speakers. We're going to be facing the crowd. We're going to have the back to our crowd. Whatever we're going to do, I get to choose that. But you still get your side. You still get your first bag, but I get to choose which end do we throw on. Again, just gamesmanship stuff. That's something that I think is like just adds to the game. It doesn't make it more complicated.
Yeah, I'm thinking this through with the existing rules. I don't think there's any way you can force somebody to be on a certain board.
No, but that's what I'm
lane you
saying.
can force, but I don't think you can force board.
That's what I'm saying. I think that it should be.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
If I choose matchup, you got to throw against me on that board over there. You still choose your side. You get first bag, but now I'm making you look at something different. You know?
Well, one of the reasons I started doing this is because we need house rules here at AJ's when we have like tournaments that are not affiliated. And that's actually a good idea. I like that a lot. Go ahead and take that one from. Maybe that'll be Grant Upchurch's contribution to Cornhole. Right there.
Maybe.
Coin toss.
Maybe.
Timeouts, Grant. Ready to talk about timeouts?
I love timeouts, but timeout. I need to go to the bathroom. Pause this thing.
All right.
There's no reason why I wouldn't.
And we're back. That was a timeout.
Cornhole show.
Grant took a timeout right before we started talking about timeouts.
I had to.
What's funny, Grant, is I think that you were able to handle business in less time than the ACL gives you for a timeout.
That's crazy.
No, wait. ACL gives you the longest timeouts.
2 minutes?
2 minute timeouts. Yeah, but you don't get as many. So it's the same total amount of time. In ACL, both singles and doubles get 4 timeouts and they're 60-second timeouts. Can you believe that? Who needs that much time?
Yeah.
That many times, especially in doubles. Your boy's right there.
Yeah, doubles makes me mad because like you have someone on the other end.
Yeah.
So we're taking a timeout every 5 to 6 points scored.
That's a lot.
That's just bad.
That's a lot.
That's just bad.
Yeah, let me do the math. 4 times 5. Yeah. Every few points you can call a timeout. That's an interesting way to think about it, right? Like if you're a professional cornhole player, you should be thinking to yourself, I can take a timeout every time they score 5 points.
Yes.
That's insane. That's a lot of timeouts.
It makes it where you don't have to like think about saving your timeout. Just timeout.
All right, ACO, you get 2 120-second timeouts. And they're the same. Both ACL and ACO do the same number of timeouts for singles and doubles, but not TCL. They do 2 90-second timeouts for singles, so you get 2 timeouts, only 1 timeout in doubles. Now, how often is that rule broken?
Not often, actually.
What? I'm going to say every tournament.
Well, I feel like people try to, but for the people that do that, most people are like, hey, no, you just get 1 timeout.
So people know the rule.
Oh, I think so. I say that rule all the time. If I see someone try to take a second timeout, instantly, no, you get 1.
You're in a bubble. That's what's happening right now. You're in a bubble. So you're in the Grant Upchurch bubble, right? Everybody knows that you know the rule. People that play around you have been taught the rule. But I'm telling you, other locations, other places where you're not there playing a lot, people don't know that you only get 1 timeout. They think you get like 4 timeouts like they see on TV. No. They're calling timeouts all the time.
Every single time I say, no, you don't have a timeout. You got a partner that can say something.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's timeouts. We're blazing through this because nobody cares about rules. All right. What about time between each pitch, Grant? What about that?
Yeah.
You know what those rules are?
Dumb.
They're
I mean, and these have to be in place because you have people that are obnoxious, right?
Yes.
Just obnoxious.
Dude, okay, so ACL and ACO give you 15 seconds between each pitch. That is a long time.
It's such a long time.
Like, throw a bag and then start a clock and wait for 15 seconds. It's actually kind of a lot. However, there was a match recently, or like last season, I forget.
To put it in perspective, you have 10 seconds to shoot a free throw.
Wow, so 1.5 times. You get 50% more time
to
than
throw a
free throw.
cornhole bag.
But there are times when you don't know what to do.
I mean,
Yeah, we've seen it at the
but
highest
in
level.
ACL, you have 4 timeouts.
Facts. This is true.
And
right?
Yeah, just stupid.
All right, well, in TCL, you only have 12 seconds. You guys have shortened the clock there relative
Yeah.
to the other leagues. Now, between rounds, it took a little bit of time for us to find this data,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In ACL, you get 45 seconds in doubles and 60 seconds in singles. So you get even extra time to walk on down there.
Yeah, that's just so what between rounds it means last bag was thrown. This is okay, clock starts, last bag stopped, clock starts. How long until I have to throw my first bag?
Yeah.
Singles, doubles. 60 seconds is a pretty long time.
It's a really long time. A minute. A minute. It's a long. I don't think it's 27 feet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, either way, I mean that's such a nitpicky rule.
Get the bags out of the hole, set up. It just does seem like
what I don't like is ACO's rule on this. 30 seconds to ready.
Yeah. Basically, it's 45 seconds because it's too ready and you have 15 seconds for your pitch.
I just overcomplication.
Right? Do you announce you're ready?
Ready.
Yeah, TCL is 45. So I guess they're pretty consistent. 45 seconds, except in ACL, you get 60 seconds if you're...
and that's probably because you don't have a partner on the other end to pick your bags up.
Right, yeah. Coaching from the stands.
Okay.
There's some distinctions here. Now, this does touch on some etiquette rules, right? Being loud and obnoxious and stuff like that. But the big question is, let's say you're playing in a big tournament. It's a signature series. You're in the main court. You're playing singles. Now, you got buddies at both ends of the courts, and they're coaching you. They're like, oh, it's hanging. You should shoot it, you know? Or no, his bag is laying on top. It's not going to go in. Don't shoot it. Just board it, right? That kind of information that you're not going to have unless you call a timeout. Can you coach from the stands? TCL, no. It specifically says no coaching from the stands. And it even has a little section that's like, you could say good shot or stuff like that, but you cannot tell your buddy what he should do in that situation, right? What's interesting about that is like, who's penalized there? I don't know,
but that's a hard rule to enforce. But with that being said, I go up to a court in the middle of a tournament. All my buddies are playing. You got that one buddy not playing, coming up to your game to tell you if you should shoot a shot or not.
Yeah.
While I have to sit here and burn my timeouts. I mean, I understand the purpose of the rule.
If you don't have any friends, you're gonna have to use your timeout.
Yeah, you're lonely.
Yeah, shoot. That's gonna be my situation when I play. Well, at ACL, you can coach. Coaching of the players by spectators or coaches is allowed during gameplay, specifically in the book. That's a quote. But the broadcast rules say spectators cannot coach. And this is when I started getting a little bit frustrated with ACL's rules. All right, on one hand, I really liked the document. It was well laid out. I understood it. But there are multiple documents. There's like the rules of the game, and then there's like broadcast rules, which are different. The code of conduct was different. Like 3 documents I think I had to look at to kind of understand what their rules were. And then I forgot to mention it before with the coin toss. I never figured out who or how you figure out which team gets to pick the bag. Like if you both come to the boards with the same bag, who gets it? You would think coin toss because that's what it is in the other leagues, but I couldn't find it in the ACL rule.
I know that when it comes to the broadcast, I don't know if it's off of seating or a flip or whatever. I just know that I think it's usually Trey Ryder or whoever's doing the broadcast, goes up and tells a person, hey, your bags are too close in color. You have to throw something else.
Yeah. But who do they go to? You don't know? Coin toss, or is it just seating?
I don't know.
Yeah, I would think seating would win that. And the other thing I didn't mention, back when we talked about ACO, their tournaments are seeded. Like all the majors, like we're having a major here at AJ's, it's seeded.
Yeah.
So all you Texas players that are going to come here and play, you're going to be bottom seed, and you're going to get second bag. You're not going to have a choice really with anything because all the other players that are coming in from out of town are going to be seeded higher than you, and it'll be frustrating, but it's okay. That happens at ACL tournaments too, right? Yeah. The people from this area are always at the bottom with the seeding.
Yeah.
But yeah, coaching from the stands is allowed in ACL. ACO, yes, it is illegal for a spectator to provide advice on bag position and or next pitch recommendation. So TCL, again, is kind of a loner when it comes to this particular rule. They do not like coaching from the stands. Here's the other thing that's interesting. We've both been to TCL events. We've both been to ACL events. I don't know if you've been to an ACO. Have you been to an ACO event
No.
before? All right, here's the deal. If there's going to be coaching from the stands, it's going to be at a TCL event because everybody is there watching. They're rooting on their buddies. Like that's when it's.
I'm not gonna lie, I've coached from the stands. It's just one of those things where you got to be. Again, if you have all those timeouts, if you have timeouts, you shouldn't need the coaching.
Yeah.
But how do you prevent coaching? You can't. Who gets in trouble for that?
Who gets in trouble? Yeah, the person in the stands do, and they can be escorted or kicked out if there's a code of the code of conduct for ACL as an example. It does mention that people that break the code of conduct will be kicked out of the building or whatever. So, but yeah, like you can't really penalize the players on it. But I just thought it was what's the word? Ironic that TCL, the one where everybody's there watching and cheering for their buddy, is the one that says you can't coach, right? Where, I mean, we've seen high level end of open on ACL. Nobody's there, right? Nobody's there to coach, right? Then it also made me think, if I'm a pro, and let's just think that the cornhole bag throwers actually become like serious professionals, you should have a coach. You should have somebody that's at the other end of the board that's recommending shots to you. It'll make you guys will be a team. Like golfers, your caddy, might help you out.
If I see more coaching, then there can't be more coaching, and then until there's an official at every single court that can say you cross 15 seconds or a shot clock or whatever you got. There has to be, because if you do coaching, that's going to extend how long it takes for a person to throw a bag.
This is true.
So it's hard.
All right, another rule: down and back, Grant. Do you always get a down and back? That's the question. In the beginning of a game, they all say yes, it's traditional. You don't have to do it. If you both agree, fine. But ACL and ACO have a very specific and unique rule that says, that back when we're talking about the coin toss, well, when it's my turn to pick and I change something that happened, like lane, matchup, back, whatever, then the other person can say, I want a down and back. And in both ACL and ACO, you get that second down and back for the match. We talked about this earlier, and you were telling me in TCL that's not the case. I couldn't find the rule in the TCL rulebook.
And I mean, again, this is kind of an etiquette thing where it's like, if you want to let them, sure, but I'm sorry, but I'm saying no. I'm saying, why do you need another down and back? We just played a whole game.
So in this case, would you be the one breaching etiquette, or would I be breaching etiquette by asking for it?
I
think you're in the wrong, Grant, because the other two leagues let you do it.
Why? I just think it's just why.
Because I've been throwing off board this whole match. Now I'm switching to on board. I want a down and back on my on board. I don't want my first on board throws to be the first ones I've thrown all day. Maybe I've been throwing off board all day, and now I got to throw on board.
When are you going to have to unwillingly switch sides of the board? If you switch sides, that's on you.
No, it would be on the second game of a match.
Okay.
You guys got to pick, and you decided to force me into a lane. Oh, then I can just go and always
switch sides.
I see your point. Okay, switching bags then. They were just talking about.
Then hell no. If you decide to switch bags, I do not have to give you a down and back.
I can an ACO and ACL.
That's dumb. I mean, I say it's dumb. I understand why you're doing it, but
don't you want the best I have? And to get that, maybe I want a down and back with this other set of bags.
Again, if you ask, some people will tell you yes, some people will tell you no. There's certain situations I have said yes. Okay, sure, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to throw them with you, but yeah, sure. If you want to walk down and back and throw the bag real quick, okay. But to me, I should be able to be like, no, dude, I'm not doing a down and back because you want to switch bags.
Well, I couldn't find this rule in the TCL rulebook. So you might be right that you only get one down and back. And if something changes during the match, tough luck, buddy. Your down and back's over. We're playing on the main stage in front of all these people. Like, I don't care. You're throwing your 4 bags. That's an interesting one. All right. Rules regarding etiquette. I think this is the final.
Okay,
this is the final slide. Yeah. All right, man. So what is etiquette? Etiquette is the customary code of polite behavior among members of a particular profession or group. Okay. That's the definition of etiquette. It's the customary code. So not necessarily written down.
Yeah.
All right. So what I did is I went through.
And let me just add this. The reason that there's such extensive rules in cornhole is because people didn't have etiquette.
That's okay. Interesting. So you think that
The reason there's a timer on how fast you need to throw your bag
yeah,
is because someone didn't have the etiquette to play a paced game.
you make a fantastic point. The reason ACO and ACL allow for that down and back is because one guy wouldn't let him do it. So they had to go
Yeah.
put it in the rule book.
Yeah. Okay, we're just going to let this guy do it.
Yeah, well, I looked at the code of conduct and it's like, all right, man, what is in here that like, they had to put in the rule book that involves this code of conduct. There's this customary code that we're all supposed to be following. Well, obviously all the major leagues publish things that forbid like fighting, profanity, touching other players.
Yeah.
Kind of
don't touch me.
interesting. Don't even touch them. And inappropriate gestures is a common theme.
Don't flip me off.
No birds given. Intentionally distracting players is also banned in all leagues. But here's the deal. You can never prove intent. Okay? This is a problem that's been as old as time. You can't prove that somebody intended to do it. Even if they say they intended to do it. Doesn't count. Like, did you really at the time it happened? Age-old problem. How do you prove intent? Well, anyway, the way these leagues deal with it is an official decides if you intended to or not, right? But when it comes to distracting, ACO has an interesting one, right? They include flipping or juggling bags and picking up bags from the board as possible distracting behaviors, okay? On the other hand, ACL specifically allows for juggling and flipping bags within your own box, right? So they kind of took different stances on this. Like, does juggling and flipping bags, is that distracting behavior? Right? ACO says maybe. ACL says no, it's not. You can flip and juggle all you.
Listen, there's two ways to view this rule and how you want to apply this rule. Give example one, flipping and juggling bags. If I'm in my box and I'm tossing my bags, I'm next to you. If I'm bothering you, tough luck. I mean, that's something I've been around for a while now. I haven't thought about that in years. I haven't thought about someone flipping their bags next to me in years. But you know what can mess with you or messes with me still to this day? Brett Guy. And Brett Guy doesn't do this anymore. He's actually super polite about it. But Brett Guy, he sets all of his bags next to him on the board.
Yeah.
And every time I go to throw, he wants to bend down and pick up his bag.
Yep.
You're making a movement towards me.
That's called out, picking up board bags from the board.
So that, to me, that makes sense. That's a justifiable, okay, yeah. I mean, don't pick up your bag until I throw at the very least.
Right.
If you're going to do it that way.
So your 15-second clock would include picking up the bag from the board.
Yes.
Right. I thought it was just kind of interesting. I got the camera in the way of some of these, some of this stuff. Let's see if I can fix it. Actually, let's just take us off for a second. Yeah, there's also obviously like you can't cuss at people. Okay, another place where the ACO and the ACL differ. ACO forbids spectators heckling. Okay. ACL specifically states, and this is a quote, fans may jeer opposing players or crews as long as no personal or verbal attacks or profanity is involved. So you can cheer against people, you can jeer, right? Not sure exactly what jeering entails, right? But it's basically cheering against somebody, So I would say that jeering and heckling are somewhat synonymous. And ACO says nope. ACL says yes, you can do it. No big deal. Other things I've looked at with TCL was kind of unique. They forbid negative references towards the TCL.
I feel like that rule is taking out of. I think that's just that's not during gameplay. I don't think that rule is specifically meant for gameplay.
I hear you.
Two rules kind of are.
Well, this is a direct quote. Okay, and again, like TCL puts kind of it's not all together, right? But negative references towards TCL, throwing bags in anger, cursing, fighting, inappropriate gestures or comments disparaging the TCL, its staff, sponsors, and players and fans it's all one sentence,
Yeah, I think that's more of a overall player conduct, not a gameplay.
Gameplay conduct? Okay. Well, I guess I put it in there because throwing bags in anger. So I did want to.
That's like, I mean, throwing anything in anger, you know. But people typically will chunk a bag across a room.
Yeah, people throw bags in anger. I've been in matches where, uh, a dude, Mason Terry. I'll call Mason Terry out. All right, we're at a signature series event. I got Ernest Herrera on my team. We're making a run, and I'm beating Mason. Mason always beats me, by the way. This is like the first time I've actually had a good game against him. We're winning this match. And that guy got so frustrated, he slammed a bag on the board while it was my turn to throw, and the bag hit me. Okay.
You can't do that.
That's a breach of etiquette
Yes,
for sure.
100%.
Also, it's a breach of the written rule.
Not very golfer of him.
Hey, good point. Can't do that in golf. But I guess in golf, you don't hit 4 shots at a time.
No.
Like you can hit a shot and explode.
Golf, you're going to snap your golf club and move on.
It actually might be very golfer if
yeah.
But yeah, so I guess, I put these in here because these are written rules, but I think that they're like etiquette. Like
what's an etiquette example? This is a signature series a few years back. I was playing with Johnny Seymour. We were playing against Jim Abdullah and Chris Gardner. Every time Johnny was thrown against Jim Abdullah, okay? Every single time, and I would do this all the time. This was not specific for this game. But every time John would take a shot, I would do that. My normal hand in the air, not shot. After game 1, that me and Johnny won, Jim came up to me and said, "Hey, do you mind not doing that because it's distracting me during my throw?" I said, "Sure." I said, "I'll stop. I mean, if it's distracting you, okay, I'll stop." In my head, I'm thinking, dude, come on. I'm thinking, come on. Because again, I'm not trying to distract you.
Yeah.
I'm literally just saying good job to my teammate. You're basically telling me not to move.
Yeah.
And if anyone has seen me play, I move a lot. When my partner's throwing, when my partner is not throwing, I'm usually moving.
Yep.
So I stopped. We ended up losing both the next 2 games. And I can't lie to you. I think if I kept pointing my finger in the air, we would have won. They ended up, I think, winning that signature series too.
Oh man.
But that's the etiquette part. If someone comes up to you and says, "Hey man, it is distracting me. Do you mind?"
Yeah.
That's the etiquette part. Yeah, I mean, yes, you mind. No, you don't mind. Is it that big of a deal to keep on sticking your finger in the air? And again, based on the rules, if it is distracting the opponent, and that opponent said, "Hey, can you stop?" At that point, if you do it anymore, is that intent?
Well, I think that you can infer intent from the timing of it. If you're, and this happens to me a lot, and I'll pump fake. Like if there's a dude who's always doing the same thing and I notice it as I'm throwing, then I'll start pretending like I'm going to throw just to see if he does it. And if he does, in my mind, I just prove that he's intentionally trying to distract me.
Right. Yeah. I think we've all done that to a degree.
Not only is a breach of etiquette, but is a breach. You're breaking the rules when you do that, right?
Yeah.
Technically, you're breaching the code of conduct. Conduct.
The etiquette deal is, again, I mean, you know what you're doing. You know what you're not doing.
Well, I mean, there is the gamesmanship. What can you get away with? What about the make it hurt, right? Saying that every time your opponent misses on the other side, make it hurt. That's a common cornhole thing.
It is. And I mean, those are the kind of things where it's cornhole. I mean, if you can't do that in cornhole, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
Right? It's sports. It's like I should be able to heckle a little bit. People complain about with the NFL all the time. You're telling me I caught this big pass in the playoffs and I want to look down at somebody and spin the ball because I just caught a ball over them?
Yeah.
Come on, don't give me 15 yards. I am a professional athlete and I did that to another professional athlete.
Yeah. Unsportsmanlike conduct.
Yes, it's crazy. It's like I get it. We're not supposed to showboat or whatever, but why? Why can't we? So again, it's just the etiquette thing. How far are you going to take it? There's playful stuff, and then there's not so playful stuff. You can go on and on, right? I mean, if I'm going to talk, I'll talk during my throws and your throws.
Well, there's something about it. Like, what if you just don't know the guy? There's a specific example in the TCL rulebook says you cannot talk to your opponent if you're doing it with the intention to distract, right? And we've all heard a guy on a podcast saying, "Oh yeah, I talk to guys to get in their head and to distract them all the time." Right. So is that a breach of etiquette? Like you're trying to get inside their head.
So here's the deal. If I'm talking to you before you are attempting to throw a bag, or if it's my throw and I turn and I talk to you, I don't think that's a breach of etiquette. I think that's just gamesmanship. This as soon as you start talking when the other person is throwing, that's when you're trying to get one up over on them, right?
As they're throwing.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But the rule doesn't say that. The rule says if you talk to the opponent to try to distract them, that's a violation of the code of conduct.
But again, that's etiquette, right? And what are you going to do? Go get an official?
Yeah, right. I mean, that's
Go
that's
get
another
someone to tell me
question.
to stop talking to you?
Is getting an official a breach of etiquette?
Because, I mean,
no-
don't get me wrong. Again, this is in the rule book, and we'll just say it. Chad Jacobson is going to talk your ear off. If you have AirPods on, the first 3 frames of the game, he's going to keep trying to talk to you for you to take your AirPods out.
So do you have to tell him, look, I'm going to have to go get an official if you keep bugging me, and go get Jason?
That would be awesome. But at the same time, it's like, man, we're playing cornhole.
All right, so we did post some questions, or a question, and ask like, hey, you guys got any questions about rules and etiquette? We got a few that are worth discussing. There's a one about rankings. I don't think we should talk about rankings. There's actually 2 about
I don't think that has
system,
to do with anything.
because that's a specific kind of rule set to TCL only. And I think we'll have a whole other episode about rankings, right? Maybe the next time they do a rankings update.
Wednesday.
Oh, is it coming?
Yeah.
Ooh, how exciting. All right, here's a question. Monica Buchanan says, during a game, beginning a new round, player A throws their first bag and hits the front of the board. Bag is picked up before player B throws their first bag. But the board was pushed back by the first bag hitting it. Can the board be adjusted? Interesting question.
Simple answer. Ask your opponent.
Yeah, ask your opponent. Can we adjust it? If they say yes, you're good.
Yes.
That's pretty much, honestly, high level, man. That's how it goes. That's the rules, right?
Just, was your opponent okay with?
Yeah, and I've heard Chad say, hey, it's a gentleman's game. Like,
Yeah.
work this out, right?
And I agree. They're to a degree. It's like, man, if the board got hit on the front and moved 2 inches back,
Yeah.
and I pick that bag up and it's clearly like 2 inches back. If I look up and I'm like, hey man, can I just bump the board up? They're going to say, yeah, it's cool.
Most people are going to be cool with it.
Yes.
Well, I looked this one up. I could not find it in TCL. In ACL and ACO, both say you don't touch the board. Once a round starts, you don't touch the board. You don't adjust it. You can adjust the other board, obviously, but the board that's being played on, that's being thrown at, once
What if
the
it was
round
the
starts,
first bag of the frame?
that's what she's saying. First bag of the frame knocks it off. There's
It's
no
just-
bags on the board.
It's just, that's a crazy. I understand why the rule's there, but if I look up the person, I'm like, hey, can we bump it up? Odds are they're saying yes.
Yeah, chances are good.
Yes.
All right, great question. Thanks for asking. But I think your question was, how is it handled correctly? Ask the other side if they're cool with it. Move it. ACO, you're not supposed to touch it. TCL's silent. At least I couldn't find it. Maybe it's in the.
I mean, it's probably not in there because it's such a. Come on.
All right, here's another one. Tanner Nelson
Okay.
asks, it's a blind draw. Your opponent's taken 10 minutes to get to the board, even though they know they're up.
I know they're. I mean, that's when you just contact the director. The director makes a decision.
Yeah, and I didn't look up for this one in the rule book. Is there something about is there a clock for when somebody forfeits the match for not showing up to the boards? Right. We all know you can go to the director, like they'll get called. Right. That's how it's usually worked out. I didn't see anything in the rule book.
No, and from TCL's aspect, it's regional directors make their rules on that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, what do I think? I think they should have forfeited the match. You're up and you're waiting 10 minutes.
But there's a scenario too where if I just played 3 games in a row, I'm allowed to have a break. I think it's 15 minutes.
Oh yeah.
I think it's that is for sure an ACL.
Oh, I didn't look that up. That's interesting.
I don't think that's in TCL's rule book at all. But again, it's a, hey man, I just played 3 games in a row. You cool with me taking a smoke and getting some food, or not even getting food? You cool with me taking a smoke, going to the bathroom, being right back? The odds are they're going to say yes.
Yeah. Well, specifically, just Zach McLean and Carlos Guzman, we're going to get to your questions in a different episode. Taylor Stone asks a question I'm not sure I understand. It says, should doubles still be side and bag if you win the flip spin, or more like singles?
Where you get side or bag?
Should doubles still be side and bag if you win flip spin, or be more like singles? This is more directed to a single elimination and the third game of a 2-3.
So I think this is what we go back with. The reason he's asking that is because right now in doubles, there's really no choice. yes, you can choose matchup, but people are going to go to their side of the board, right? That's
Yeah.
just what it is. But if I can choose matchup and an end,
Yeah.
there really is a second choice.
Yeah.
No one calls matchup because there's no benefit of calling matchup.
It's rarely called, but it's sometimes. I've seen it called, I think. Yeah. But if
If
they,
someone's just running from somebody,
yeah. Or
I
they
mean,
want to put it on somebody.
yeah, okay. But again, if there's no real option,
Yeah. I like your idea of end. Maybe you'll make a change in the cornhole world. I like it.
well, to give an update, Jason Andrews is on board for this.
Oh, well, that's great news.
Yes.
That's great news. I just got to work on Chad. Hey, Chad, make it happen. It's a great idea. And it would make TCL the first league to implement this rule. You guys change rules mid-season. Just put a new rule in there.
We're also changing stuff all the time. So that's
Oh, well, okay. The last change before we stop
No.
changing things.
Nope, not having it.
All right, bro. We made it through it. Hey, everybody. Thanks for if you're still around, like,
Hey, I know a
God
lot of
bless.
people fell asleep to this show.
Yeah, this is the one that took you 4 tries to get through.
Yeah.
I hear you. But hey, rules, man. Rules of cornhole. Now you guys know what some of the differences are. But at the end of the day, just work it out with the opponent. And what if the opponent's a jerk and you have to go get an official, the opponent breach of etiquette, right?
Yeah, that's the etiquette part of things. And I mean, everybody should know the rules of their leagues to a pretty solid amount. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're playing in TCL and you're always crossing the line and you're just assuming no one's going to say something to you, you're the one in the wrong. I don't care what you're doing in another league. I don't care if you're an ACL pro and this is what you do. Just don't cross the line, man.
Yeah.
Just don't. Why? And that's really that's the primary rule, right?
That's really the big one. The crossing the line is the big one, for sure.
So, anyways, remember, it's just a game.